Good morning, everyone. This is Catarina Song Chen. I am in Belo, Horizonte, Brazil. And I want to quickly thank Ryan for helping me with the slides. He's helped me create beautiful slides to accompany my presentation. But just a quick background, I'm the head of school here at Escola Americana de Belo Horizonte. I've been the head of school for 11 years. And like most of your children, I am what you call a TCK, a third culture kid. I was born in Seoul, but raised in Asunción, Paraguay, in South America. Latter part of my life, I grew up in California, did all of my academic studies there, then met my Taiwanese husband, who was born and raised in Brazil, and that's why I'm there right now. So I want to start off by giving you a quick review of what I will be addressing. I will be addressing the what, the how, and the why. And the what is really the challenges of dealing with challenges, which is really the tug of war between doing things right and doing the right thing. The how is how to address the challenges, how to leverage your skill as a leader, which is really being comfortable with, really embracing and navigating ambiguity. And that's especially true here in Brazil in the context that I'm working at. And the why is, we have to do the things we need to do, but how will we best do that? And the best practices. And that is, while we're helping to flatten the curve, working remotely, staying at home, how do we take advantage and stay on this learning curve? So to start off, one of the biggest challenges we're facing right now is that we're all driving in a fog. And I don't know if many of you feel like that, but I feel like I'm facing a lot of information, but a lot of this information is also incomplete. It started off with when will you close school? How will you close school? How will you run school from home? And how long will this coronavirus pandemic last? When will you return to school? Lots of questions. And just like Ryan in Curitiba, we're pretty much on the same timeline. On March 17th, we received a mandate from the government saying that we needed to close school from March 18th to the 22nd, which was pretty much a Thursday to a Sunday. And, but we've been monitoring this and seeing how things were playing out in China starting in December. So we pretty much knew what was coming our way. And so what we did on March 17th, on that last staff meeting we had in person, we had to tell our teachers, pack your things, pack your devices, but be sure to take as many resources you can with you so that you can work from home. And they were asking us, well, how long will this last? And I said, I don't know, it could be till the end of the school year. We have to think about the worst case scenario, so pack everything. So that last day really looked like a madhouse. It looked like, as if we gave everybody a free shopping spree day at Target. I mean, everybody was just running around like crazy, gathering everything. And so March 18th to the 22nd, we were closed. We started online classes on March 23rd. And then on March 27th, we received news that school would be closed indefinitely. And, as a leader, that you always have to do the right thing, but you are, stretched really thin. You have to take care of the small things, the big things, and even the unfathomable. And one of the, what appears as small is not really small, right? Because we have to be the cheerleaders of our school. We have to appear calm and collected, but make sure we're always communicating and keeping things positive. We also have to be therapists. We have to think about the well-being of our students, our faculty and staff, our parents, and how do you do this? And at the same time, you have to be a finance expert, you have to be a crisis expert, you have to be a strategist, because now you're thinking, okay, well, here's this crisis. How will you turn this crisis into an opportunity? How do you turn lemons to lemonade? And people are looking at you as if you're an oracle. They want to know, they want the answers from you. When will the quarantine be lifted? What will happen to enrollment and finances? It's really hard. And at our school right now, we're in the process of building our budget for the next school year. So what will tuition look like? And do you raise tuition or do you not? Lots of big questions. And other aspects of challenges are the challenges that we face is crisis management. As I mentioned before, we've been monitoring the news from afar, and you see this, the virus spreading, people in quarantine, and you know that it's just a matter of time when this will happen to you. So just like many other schools, we had to create the infectious disease protocol, and we had to come up with a distance learning plan. And all the while, you have to follow the government mandates. And here in Brazil, that's been quite an interesting journey. There have been many twists and turns with them saying, at first that distance learning would not count as official school days. And then they talked about advancing your vacation so that you could have real face-to-face classes later on. And during this whole process, you're also having to think quickly and deciding, okay, what are the essentials and what are some of the non-essentials that I need to stop now? So we've been planning for school expansion, we have construction plan, but all of that has to be put on hold. And you also have to be ready and available to help your teachers, and you have different subsets as well. So for example, 40% of our teachers are foreign hires. And so the current foreign hires are worried about, well, will I be able to complete my contract and leave in time for my next post? And then you have your incoming foreign hires that are worried about, okay, will I be able to get into the country? And if I do, and if I'm quarantined, how will I be able to start school? So lots of big questions. And another challenge is the clash between, interests and priorities. I talked a little bit about the clashes that we've seen with how we've been playing out our distance learning while the government is saying, okay, you could do this, but you can't do this. And it's tough. Right now there are legislation that's being considered about tuition, where they're saying, well, schools should cut tuition by 50%, and there are schools that are cutting tuition by 80%. And you're thinking to yourself, okay, can we afford to do this? And we're a nonprofit school, and we're thinking about, ensuring that we do our best to take care of all of our faculty and staff. We're thinking about our outsourced staff as well, who are earning minimal wages, and they don't have a safety net in finances, and they really need the month-to-month paycheck to survive. And emotions are running high. Teachers are stressed, students are sad, and parents are upset naturally. Deborah mentioned, well, parents never signed up to become teachers, and here they are at home having to manage teaching and learning and schedules. It's really tough. And so just to share real quick, our seniors are really sad right now because they can't live out their senior year at school with their friends. And, they're extremely worried and sad about their graduation. So what we've been doing, what we normally do at school is that every month our seniors receive a little surprise. And because we weren't able to give them their surprise in person, this month we gave them a virtual gift, which was a gift card for them to access movies and music, and to just let them know that we're thinking of them. And for our teachers, when we were closing down school and getting ready for distance learning, as you can imagine, there was a lot of anxiety, a lot of concern. So I talked to some of our key parent leaders and asked them if they could help us by making sure that they knew that we were thinking about them, that we cared for them, and that we were cheering them on. And so a parent said, okay, well, what do you want me to do? And I said, it'd be nice if somehow they received a gift at their doorstep on the first day of distance learning. And so they said, okay, then let's distribute chocolate. And that's what we did. We bought Copenhagen chocolates for everybody, from our teachers to our IT staff to our outsourced cleaning and maintenance crew. Everybody received a gift at their doorstep. So Ryan, can you help me by clicking on that link where it says teachers, just a very shortened version of what that looks like?
Thank you so much, parents. Oh my gosh, chocolate helps everything and is necessary in these times. So that was so kind. Thank you so much from our family to yours.
Oh, that's a whole video. Yeah, so it's very important to make sure that we're celebrating and that we're encouraging our teachers and staff. And so now let's talk a little bit about how do you leverage your leadership in times of challenge. And I talked about navigating ambiguity. So it's very important that we're okay with change. We have to be very flexible, and we know that we can't predict the future. So what I encourage many of my colleagues is to seek input from diverse sources, tap into that human capital. I have a good friend, a confidant, where I could just vent and pour all of my emotions out to her, and she'll give me some good advice. Even though she's not familiar with running a school, it's kind of nice to hear sometimes different opinions from people who work in different fields. Talk to your board members, and not just the board president, but feel free to connect with each of your board members in a different level. They always have good advice to share. Other colleagues, other school heads, principals, and if you know anybody who works in the government level, where they could give you advice or help you be a voice in when they're making these tough, difficult decisions. So for us, having an access to the Ministry of Education or the Council of Education has been very important, because a lot of the legislation that they've been making is addressing a lot of the local schools. And because we are the only international school here, we're in a completely different situation. And for them to recognize our calendars and our multiple credential, and the fact that teachers have to fulfill their contract and that they're leaving by June, and we cannot make up these classes at a later time, is very important for them to understand. Another thing is constantly check temperature. And I don't mean the physical temperature of your children and staff, but I mean check in on them to see how they are doing, and do this constantly. So what we've been doing is we've been conducting surveys every week, and we show them the graph result of what parents have been saying about our teaching and learning. And every week we make sure that our principals are creating short videos to pretty much tell our community members, look, thank you for sharing with us what you think and what you believe, and for sharing your advice. We heard you, and this is what we'll do about it as we move forward. And that really helps parents feel this confidence that we're working together. And as we know, the future right now looks like a moving target. This is what I call the analysis paralysis, where you have differing information coming to you, lots of different opinions from all sides, really. And you need to decide, okay, what matters most at this moment? And you need to learn to prioritize and be able to process the information rapidly. And next slide, please. And even if you, like me, feel that you're a control freak, we need to learn to let things go. And we need to empower others and think that it's okay to divide and conquer. While teachers are at the forefront working with the teaching and learning with our students, what are you doing with the rest of your faculty and staff? You have principals, you have nurses, you have counselors, you have teacher aides. This is a great opportunity for them to step up as leaders. So what we've done is we created a help desk, and this help desk is not just for the IT team to help with our parents and students with the technical difficulties that they're having, but also a help desk with our teacher aides. So if a parent, for example, says, hey, I'm really frustrated with this homeschool and I don't know how much I should help my child or how much time to give them, or how, there are lots of questions because our parents have never been teachers before. So our teacher aides are there to help answer those difficult questions for our parents as they're working with their children. And it's also a great opportunity because our teacher aides want to become teachers one day. And so this is giving them an opportunity to really show off their talents and skills and even creativity. This is a moment where everybody can shine. I'm also soliciting the help of our nurse and our guidance counselors because I can't reach everyone on the faculty and staff at this moment. So while I'm working on other matters, I'm soliciting the help of our nurse and guidance counselors to do a check-in with each and every one of our faculty and staff members. So they are calling each one and just checking in on them to see how they're doing, to see what it is that we can do to better support them with the work that they're doing at home. And this is the time to collaborate, form committees and make sure you're celebrating. We have an association meeting that's coming up, and I have a group of my marketing team and my development officer that's also helping me with this process. And make sure you celebrate. Right now we have a happy hour that we will put together with our faculty and staff. So on the eve of an upcoming holiday that we have in a couple of weeks, we will do a bring your own device and drinks hour. And we'll just get together and play games and celebrate all the good things that are happening. And another important reminder when we're empowering others to take on leadership roles is please remember not to punish mistakes. Missteps will happen for sure. That's part of the process, but failing to act is worse. So, about that letting go of control and allowing others to take on leadership is very important. So the best practice is that while we're staying home, flattening the curve, we're all on a learning curve. Some of the tips I wanted to share is on implementing distance learning. And I feel like I'm echoing what Ryan and what Deborah has already shared, but it's pretty much scaffolding the process. Establish easy routines and try to promote less screen time. It's okay to start late in the day, and it's okay to finish early as long as you have established routines. And make sure you ease the burden of cognitive overload. And by that, I mean you need to go slow in order to go fast. So master one thing at a time before you move on to another. Somebody else mentioned earlier, you know, we started off with Google Hangouts, Google Meets, and then we moved to Zoom. That's fine. That's what we did as well. And make sure that the tools and the platforms you use are things that you're already familiar with, so that you try to avoid multitasking, you know, and learning new tools while you're trying to also teach distance learning. That's hard to do. And make sure that the pedagogy dictates the tool and not the other way around. And make sure you innovate and try new things as you go, and make sure you also celebrate those mistakes. I think that's very important. You know, I think it was Ryan that mentioned earlier, you know, they're not doing clubs at the moment, and that's completely fine. I think it's very important to have your classes in rhythm first, and then as you establish this rhythm and everybody gets comfortable with the schedule, then you could go ahead and introduce other layers. So right now we're in the process of doing that. We're slowly introducing the athletics portion, believe it or not, and we will have a virtual pep rally, and we will push forward with our Spirit Week, and you know, empower your students with community and service. Our students are getting together to create videos to help their fellow classmates with how to cope with distance learning. And they're also bringing in guest speakers to the classroom. So make sure you take the moment to also empower your students. And please remember that you have to let your core values, your mission, guide your decision making. Remember that education is a critical human experience, so we need to build empathy and human connection, and make sure that you're prioritizing student support more than accountability. So instead of thinking of the consequences of what will we do if the student does not turn in this work, think about how can we help this student who may be struggling with distance learning. And make sure that you're always reminding your stakeholders about your school's mission and value. So for example, the guiding values at this moment that's at the forefront right now is collaboration. And what does that mean for your community? Well, for us, it means engaging in meaningful conversation, working together, and having a shared ownership. And perseverance is another core value. Persisting and learning from challenging situations helps build tenacity and resilience. And this is a message that we're trying to share with our parents, how important they are in role modeling how they deal with problems in times of adversity. Another thing I wanted to mention about that is that, you know, while it's important that we have empathy for our teachers and staff, sometimes we also need to give a reality check. And that reality check is that, you know, I know that it's really hard to do this from home. We never signed up to do distance learning. We know that. But we have to remember that we're really privileged to be able to work from home, and that we still have a job and a paycheck. And so it's important to balance empathy and reality check. And two last things I want to leave you with is humor and hope. And what I want to say is don't lose your sense of humor, even when we're going through this world pandemic. You know, gags, memes, you know, those funny videos and general silliness is there. It's all okay. It's good for us. It provides relief and it takes the edge off of danger. And we know that we're scared, but it certainly helps to smile and to keep laughing. And I know it's crazy times where I feel like I'm looking at Twitter to see what's the death rate. And at the same time, I'm like laughing about memes on toilet paper, masks, and hand washing. You know, we feel contradictory and crazy at the same time. But humor is a great protection for humanity. I was actually doing a little bit of research, and there's this university professor at the University of Maryland. His name is Dr. Robert Proven, and he said, this is his quote. He said, "If we laugh together, it's a social vocalization that bonds us. It gives us the pleasure of acceptance and makes us feel that we are the same, like collective therapy." And I think that's a great message. But on the same token, I also want to remind you to be aware of how you joke. Jokes may bring us together and make us feel inclusive, but the flip side of this can be excluding others. So, while we laugh with people to belong, sometimes we may laugh at others to exclude. So let's be sure that our jokes are about the events and behaviors, like video conferencing and challenges of distance learning, of working and learning from home, and about the famous toilet paper jokes. But let's be respectful and empathetic, and not target the sick or those that are mourning the loss of loved ones, and the minorities. And I'm speaking as an Asian American that are many times being accused of causing the virus. And ultimately, humor helps us take back control and connect, and which are two things that we feel that we are at a loss for in our fight against the pandemic. And one last word, I know we're eager to get to questions, but I really want to leave everybody with the message of hope. I use the word curves a lot, right? We're flattening the curve, we're on a learning curve, but curves are a sign of struggle, challenge, and victory. We find curves in tragic events like the whirlwind in tornadoes or the waves in tsunami, and it's a sign of struggle in the inevitable wrath of nature. And we also find curves in spirals and circles. It's a sign of life's circles and its challenges. Just like in life and in learning, nothing is linear. It's messy and it's full of squiggles. But I also want to say that we find curves in rainbows. And after that hard climb and after the perseverance, and we've reached that top, and we know that whatever comes up must come down. So as you're going back down, that's the reward. That's the other side of the curve. When the coronavirus pandemic hopefully will start to die off and we'll return to our normal jobs, it will be a sign that we have been successful in enduring the darkness and successfully have followed the light at the end of the tunnel. And we will see the fortune of life and realize that we're so lucky to be alive. And that is really the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And the rainbow is an arc reaching us from one phase of life to the next and from one learning to the next. So for our reflection purposes, I do ask you, what are your takeaways now that you realize that you can do teaching and learning without the brick and mortar building? And how will you change when you return to school? Okay, thank you.